Interview with Mary Merris at the Mechanicsburg Area Senior Adult Center on July 19th, 2002 with Heather Egan as a part of the Cumberland County Women During World War II Oral History Project. Can you tell me a little bit about your life before World War II began?
Oh, sure. You mean like when I was like in my teens or born or where? Or just that I was engaged when the war was declared?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. All right. All right. I was engaged to my future husband, John Merris, when war was declared. And we didn't want to get married and him go off to war and me be what would I be? A widow. So we postponed our marriage. And then he thought, well, he would enlist. So he tried to enlist. They turned him down because he had a bad heart. Well, then he tried to enlist again. That was at Carlisle because we lived in Mechanicsburg. And was turned down again. So we thought, okay, we'll get married. So we got married. And in 9 months, we had twin sons. And then when they were about 2 years, he was called into the service. He was 4F. He was classified 4F. And then they were down scraping the barrel, I guess, and he was called into service after we got married and had our children. Yes, right. I was 25 then, and he was 28. It just wasn't fair.
No. What a great time to wait.
Yeah.
You had a plan, and then they had to go and
Well, yeah.
mess it up.
Oh, hey, why, if he wasn't good enough to enlist, why was he good enough to be drafted?
Yeah.
4F. That's,
Where were you when you heard about the bombing of Pearl Harbor?
Oh, now that's a good question. I don't think I really remember. I can remember some things. No, I don't remember exactly where I was. No.
Do you remember at all maybe like how you reacted or like how the news?
Oh, of course it was a shock. It naturally was. Oh my, a terrible shock. Sure. But I think I was at home. You know, I was living at home then, of course. My home with my parents. Because, gosh, that was terrible.
And speaking of like getting married you got married during the war, correct?
Yes, okay. Because he wasn't going to be going, so we
might as well.
Yes.
And what was your wedding like? Was it a big wedding or was it small because of the war?
Yes. But it was a lovely wedding. It was on Easter Sunday, April the 5th, 1942. And the church was full and it was all decorated with flowers. We didn't have to do that because we couldn't have afforded it anyway. And I still have my wedding dress, but it was a wedding dress, not a wedding gown. Difference there. And it was dark blue, pleated very good with lace trim, lace inset. It was a wedding dress, and I still have it in my cedar chest. And I had a blue hat with a veil, and yes, it was very lovely. And my husband, he was very. But you want to know a little bit about it?
Oh, sure.
Well, my mother cried. My daddy walked me down the aisle, though. He was very brave and nice. And my husband, he said his toes curled up, you know. He was so nervous, you know, his toes curled up in his shoes. But I didn't know that, of course. But it was a lovely wedding. And a church was packed, of course. It was a small town, Dauphin. So everybody turned out for my wedding. No announcements or anything. We didn't send out invitations or anything, but it was lovely.
Did you go on a honeymoon?
Oh, yes, we did. We had an ash car and you could put the seats back and made a bed, because who could afford to go to motels or anything then? So yes, we did. And we traveled down through the south. We traveled the back roads, and you know, where the hills are like that, and And they're really steep, where the ladies sit in the front porches with their corncob pipes and you know, backwoods. Way back then, it was really rural back there. We went down to Georgia, as far south as Georgia, and came back. I can't tell you how many days, probably a week or so. But it was a honeymoon for those times, you know. Mm-hmm.
And did your husband actually go off to war? Did he go off to Europe?
No, he didn't. We'll get to that service down in Georgia, Fort Benning, Georgia, though. Yeah, but he fortunately it was over before he was sent overseas.
What kind of things did you shop for during the war?
Ha! Who had money? I couldn't get to a store with babies. I was left alone with 2-year-old babies. Two 2-year-old babies. And I can't remember shopping for anything except food. No.
Were you better off or worse off financially during the war?
That's a silly question. No, I was not better off during the war financially. Definitely not.
What items became difficult or pretty much impossible to get? Do you remember?
Well, you know, things were rationed then, you know that. But I got all I needed, you know. Sugar, I got plenty of it. Gas, you know. I wasn't denied much. Well, you did curtail your use, but I had what I really needed, and especially with the babies, too. Mm-hmm.
Did you have a victory garden?
Not then, I didn't. No, not with children and nobody that helped me dig it and plow it or whatever. No.
Did you can your foods?
I did afterwards, after the war, when my husband was home, and not during it. When he came home, we did have a nice garden, but not during the garden year. And we lived in the country. We had 3 acres, so we could have had. No, yes. Hey, I was country. That's why I couldn't walk down the street, go to the store, and pick up whatever I wanted. No, I was rural, baby. Uh-huh.
And did you regularly attend church during the war?
It was difficult with the twins.
Yes.
Very. So no, not regular. You don't do that with 2-year-old twins. In the first place, how do you get them? No car seats, you know, and no pants. You didn't have good. What you had to use for rubber pants. We had no rubber pants. It was some sort of a canvas coated with something that would crack and leak. It couldn't even dress them up to have them. No. You know, that's one thing, you know, you couldn't, the rubber pants were gone. No rubber for the pants.
Did you follow the war closely in the media?
Oh, yes. I did get the newspaper then. I don't get it now.
And,
of course, we have the radio now, or television now. I guess I had a radio then. I hope I did.
And what was your view on the war at the time?
Don't ask me that, because I can tell you what it was. I was resentful, not for the war, I guess for the fact that they took my husband after he was 4 after we got married, because he wasn't supposed to go to the service. So my view was pretty, not favorable at all. I was resentful. I really was. No, it wasn't right to take my husband after we got married and the children. And I resent it to this day. And I am patriotic, too. I am very patriotic.
Nice.
But I wasn't.
It's understandable to have been angry. I would have been upset too.
Well, upset's a good word. Better than angry, but I think I would. I say resentful.
What was an average day like for you during the course of the war? Like, what time did you get up and taking care of the kids and...
Lordy, lordy, I don't know what time I got up with twins. I guess whenever they started to get awake and want to get up, which was usually one would get awake and wake the other one. So then we would get up and do the normal things. And, but I did have enough gas to go over to my parents once in a while, who lived in Dauphin. I was over here in Mechanicsburg. But, you know, it was hard with these twins because they would stand up on the back seat because they were little. If they would stand on the floor or in the back, they couldn't see. So they would stand in the back seat. And, you know, that wasn't safe even then. So it was hard to go any place with the twins alone, which I was alone. So what was your question? What did I do?
Yeah.
Well, I don't even know how I got to the store to get groceries. I suppose I had my mother-in-law maybe stay with the twins while I went to the store. I had to do something, so probably they helped me out. Because I don't actually remember. I know I got groceries. I had to.
Do you remember what appliances you had in your home?
Oh, that's a happy thought. Not many, I'll tell you. Holy good. Well, I know I had an iron, and my mother-in-law, we built onto her house. You know, it was a country, and there was room, and she was a widow too, and so she wanted. My husband was the oldest child, so she wanted him there, and I can see it. So we built on, and then there was a wash house out back, and yeah, she had an easy wash machine. It had cups, it was a good old machine, that was a wash. But we had to carry our water in, heat it on the stove out there. Hey, it was pretty primitive, I'll tell you. It wasn't easy. And when the twins were little, but that was before he went into the service, I did all the washing by hand for a year or so. Then I used the wash machine. What was that question again?
What appliances?
Oh, okay. So we had my mother-in-law's wash machine. I had an iron. Appliances. What appliances? I didn't have my mixer by then. I don't think I had a mixer by then. No, not in 2 years. No.
Did you have a large freezer to store meat or anything like that?
No, we didn't get the freezer till later, just a refrigerator. Oh, yeah, that's an appliance. Oh, hey, I probably had a toaster, sure. Toast our bread. Well, let's get into this now, yeah. I never thought of that as an appliance. Yeah, toast, yeah. Well, that might cover it. I know I didn't have my mixer, and that's a wonderful thing to have. Okay, that go.
Big one? The big bowl?
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Man, that was rough. No mixer. I mean, hey, that was living. As I look at it back now, but then I didn't think of it.
So how many people did you live with? It was you, your 2 sons, your husband for a short time, and your mother-in-law?
Well, we built onto her house. She had her section, we had our own private home, you know. It was like a double house, and that's what it was.
Mm-hmm. And did you own it or rent it or?
No, we just lived there. Because we built onto it, so we didn't pay rent. No. hey, who could afford it anyway?
True. And do you remember VE and VJ Day?
Holy moly, yeah, I sure do. I can remember where I was then.
And where were you?
I was out on the front porch, and the church bells began to ring, and the fire whistles. I could hear them, from town. I could hear from town. Fire whistles, sirens were going, and I knew what happened. Wow! What a time. Yes! Happy day. You bet I remember exactly where I was.
And where was your husband stationed during the war?
Fort Benning, Georgia. And I went down there with the twins and lived there a while. Yes, I did. Hey, yes, I did. You want to hear about that?
Sure.
Okay. Him being 28 years old and with a wife and family back, and he was always on KP duty every weekend because he was fall asleep during meetings or sit in the back, and because he wasn't he was resentful too. Mm-hmm. And so we decided that I would come down, and then he had something to do on the weekends besides KP, scrubbing pots and pans and trees and things. So he had a buddy who lived in Carlisle, and so he gave me her address. We got together. She had a little son, 1 year old, and I had twins, 2 years old. So I had the car, and we got together. His wife, what's her name? Forget it. And it took us 2 days and a half, I guess, to get down there. I know we spent 2 nights in a motel. And we got down there, and he had rented on a plantation. We had the servants' quarter, a nice cottage, and his buddy's wife had to live in a couple rooms at the main house. Didn't look like a plantation house to me. I would think of them as more elaborate. But my cottage was lovely. Except at one time there was a big spider up in the corner. I am definitely afraid of spiders. But anyway, that was a happy place there. It had a bedroom and a kitchen. No living room though. But hey, the bedroom was big enough to be able to. And there was lattice and there's southern vines, whatever they are. It was lovely. I liked it. Then there was a colored cemetery right by with pecan trees, and we were allowed to get pecans if we wanted to. And the colored people were very nice to us there. Very, very nice. And that was a very nice time. Now, but then he got me, see, that was in Macon, I think. And then he got us into Fort Benning trailer court. What a horrible place. It was a little like a wooden trailer. Section here, a section here with a little middle part there for closets and things. And, but anyway, that's where we lived with a little ice box, not a refrigerator. We must have had electricity, though. I'm sure I didn't have a coal oil lamp there. Good gosh. And some little tiny pot-bellied stove. A really little thing about that big. Well, anyway, and there was a little yard, fenced in. The soil was all sand there. But that was all right, though. And what was remarkable, we spent Christmas there. And we went into town the night before Christmas. My husband went up to some store. And when he came down, here that store manager it was so sweet of him. He had practically given my husband decorations for a small tree. And that really touched me, My husband got us a tree and trimming for our Christmas down there. So I could cry about that. So that was a very nice Christmas, away from home, okay? Mm-hmm.
And how did you get down? Did you drive down?
Yes, I drove most of the time, but gosh, I almost had her name. No, I'm not going to think about it. She drove some, but she wasn't such a good driver.
Did you have to save up rationing stamps or anything like that?
Not for that.
No, to travel down it was okay?
Mm-hmm.
Because I know gas and everything was rationed at that time, but it was all right to travel?
Yes, we were covered.
Okay. Did you have to fill out any paperwork or anything like that? No?
Mm-mm, no. No. Well, hey, I was just going down. My husband took care of everything at that end.
Oh.
And they were, expecting us. When we arrived, we had to go to where my husband was living, or at his, what do you want, madam? Hi.
Did you keep in touch with your husband through letters while he was down
Oh my
in
gosh,
Georgia?
every day. He's, stop that, that's gonna roar in there.
Don't worry about it.
Every day, and maybe a couple times, maybe twice a day, he would write whenever he had a spare time, and wasn't too tired, because he was very tired, because he really wasn't too healthy, and he would get very tired. But he would send me a postcard or two whenever he had time each day, and I would write him a letter. Not every day, because I couldn't sometimes. I was too tired. But he wanted to hear about the boys. He called them his little men. He was a very good father. We ended up with 6 children then. Because that's what I wanted. I wanted to get married and have 6 children. And that's what I did. And so, yes. Well, yes, we wrote. And I have lots of letters, because in fact, we're just going through them now so the children can, so his other children got to know their grandfather.
That's so sweet. Anything at all?
Chimney whispers. Oh, this is hitting me here now.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No. Yeah, my mind's a blank.
Oh, don't worry about it. Thank you very much.
Ask me a question.
Okay.
And then I can answer a question, but...
Do you have any questions? No. What was the first thing, what are the first things that you remember happening that were different than your usual routine when the war began?
When the war began.
Yeah. What things changed in your routine?
Well, of course it was the rationing. And, of course we were, everybody was going off to war, all our friends, It was traumatic. I mean, we're at war, for heaven's sake. But you want to know what happened to us. Well, I really can't remember what happened to us in particular. Except that we were rationed, of course. That's a change.
Did since, even though, from what you tell us, you weren't much of a cook to begin with.
No, but I sure learned.
Yes.
I learned.
Did you have to change the way you were cooking, obviously, when you were rationing and everything? Did you have to, change meals or substitute something with something else?
Well, now see, I don't remember, but I presume I would have had to. I would have had to cook with what I could get. So, I know, coffee, we didn't use coffee. I think that was rationed too. But it didn't affect us. But it was mostly the sugar and the gasoline. That was so long ago, It's a period you sort of would like to forget, too. Wasn't a happy time. Not happy.
Did you partake in the celebration of VE and VJ Day?
No, I didn't. Hey, I can tell you something. We did this is something neat. When my husband was in the service down there, they were out on bivouac, and he had me go into town. See, they weren't allowed to have candles or anything when you're on bivouac, you know. So he had me go into town and buy all the candles that I could, snacks, you know, like candy and crackers and things like that. And so I bought all the candles in that one store and a whole bunch of candy and things, and I put them in a gunny sack. I drove out in the country, past the guards, you know, that they had out in the country, and there was a little old church. Probably a colored one. In the back of the church was a log, a big fallen log. Now I put this sack of candles and food behind that log. Then I got in my car and drove back past the guards and see, you know, they never knew it. Well, then my husband and his friend sneaked out and picked that up, you know, and that was AWL, I guess, and then they took it back. And at nighttime, they were sitting here outside their tent, and everybody was coming up and buying these candles and buying the candy and things, and they had their helmets there, and they were putting the money in, and here come the guards around. Oh boy, everybody froze. My husband put his head down like this, and they just froze, because they knew they were going to get it. But the guards, or whoever they were, sergeants or whatever, the one said to the other, "You can't overestimate these so-and-so American soldiers." And so they went on by. They didn't do a thing, just left them have their candles and things. And I thought that was pretty neat, that the MPs, or the ones in charge, could be compassionate to them out there like that. And for my part in it, from the prophets, I got a lovely kimono, which I kept for years and years and years. It was a good one, you know. They bought it for me for. I may have done that twice. Mm-hmm. But that was pretty risky. If they'd have been, well, they were caught, but they didn't do anything about it. And I don't think I was supposed to be in that area anyway, you know, but I did go. So I was bad, wasn't I? Huh? Huh? I guess if I could think about it, I could think of some more things. But that you wondered more about how I lived. But that's how I lived there. That is how I lived there in Georgia.
Did you have, when you were at home in Mechanicsburg, you said you could hear the bells
on
your porch. Did you also, did you have to do, what are they called, air raid drills and things like that?
No, we didn't have those.
Oh, you did?
No, we did not. Mm-mm. No, we didn't have air raid drills here. Although we had the supply depot here, but we did not have air raid drills. No, not at all. Mm-mm. I don't know why. Because I know the UFOs, they weren't, you know, but I think they were protecting whatever it was, because my daughter-in-law saw one right over her garage. They were circular. But I think they were, you know, they're surveillance. That's what they were. Surveillance, protecting the Naval Supply Depot here. Mm-hmm. So, but we never had any air raid drills.
Huh. Oh. Okay, well,